Hey folks, I'm here with Kevin Hollasch from Stiffy's Custom Rods. Stiffy Custom Rods. And I'm getting one built. You're gonna make one for me.
Yep.
And I'm in need of a about a 7-foot medium heavy spinning rod. It's gonna be something that, I can use for light tackle jigging for striper.
Okay.
Something I can throw, like skip a jackhammer up underneath overhanging brush for the tidal largemouth. Something I can throw the 7-inch scented jerk shad for the river smallmouth. It's gonna have a lot of different applications, but
Okay.
I need a 7-foot medium heavy spinning rod.
Got it.
And let's talk a little bit about why you go custom instead of just going to a retailer and saying, all right, I'll grab this one off the shelf. I know from my own experience, it's a lot like all of the custom tackle that I make. It's because what I see on the shelf is good.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of good stuff out there, but it isn't exactly what I wanted.
Right.
So I have some unique needs in terms of the butt length.
Sure.
But overall, I also think you can get a little bit higher quality rod for your price point
Right.
when you build your own.
Absolutely.
So if you want to just talk a little bit about, I don't know, like why do you think custom rods are, why is it that people come to you and get custom stuff, and maybe a little bit about some of the builds that you've done recently?
Sure. Well, I think you nailed it with the custom part and your needs there. So obviously we can take any blank on the website here and build it into either a spinning rod or a casting rod. You're not stuck to what you just find on the shelf. Blanks can be spined and built either way. With the kayak needs of the shorter butt, we can do that right from the start. There's no changing. You don't have to cut a rod you buy from the store, and we can customize it from the start.
So we've already started looking at, we're on Mudhole, and we've kind of scrolled up and down, and this is Mudhole's like house brand, or?
Yeah, Mudhole's MHX is part of Mudhole, I believe, and it's their house brand. The Elite X lineup we're looking at here is their high-end blanks that they make.
Okay. And that 7'3" that goes up to 3/4 ounce is in the fast action medium heavy would work, but I think in some of the close quarters skipping situations, I want something that's closer to 7. So there's a heavy, and there's a medium heavy extra fast, and I think that one on the top is it. So 3/16 to 3/4 ounce. I will throw a 1 ounce jig on that. It'll handle it. Fast, medium heavy, 7. I think that's a good starting point with the blank. What other components do we need to look at?
We'll go the grips. We have our endless amount of grips. You can either go cork, EVA, wind grips, which is what I prefer to build on my rods, or carbon fiber. Then we need the reel seat. Plenty of different options out there as far as reel seats. Usually I build mine as light as possible, so I just do a winding check, a hook keeper, and then most of the time I use American Tackle guides on my spinning rods.
Cool. Let's take a look at a couple ones that you've built for yourself.
Okay. Here's a 7-1. It's mainly a drop shot Ned rig style rod. As you can see, we just went with the wind butt grip here. Couple of different winding checks and a Fuji reel seat. I switched over to this reel seat recently, got away from having the extra weight of a butt grip like we have on this rod here. It also allows the touch right up to the blank with the exposed reel seat on the spinning rod that way, instead of traditional grips that you find that way, and then in the store as well. I have the American Tackle microwave guides on there. I'm a big believer that these guides do eliminate line twist on the spinning rod and make you cast further. What happens is they have that little guide inside that big guide to start there, so when that line comes off the reel and you got those big loops, it hits that first guide and it funnels it into a straight line, which in turn gets the increased casting distance and eliminates that line twist that you normally get in a spinning rod.
So how small do the guides get to the top? Because one thing I can't stand are small guides and the ice buildup that I get. And
yeah, those are number...
My braid to fluorine leader just taking a beating.
Right. I believe these are number 5 running guides, but for your case, we can build the rod with the larger set of microwave guides, or we could just use the standard microwave guide as our stripping guide down here and run larger guides up to the tip there, so you don't get your...
So the argument for smaller guides is purely weight, correct?
Weight, and it keeps the line closer to the blank.
Okay. Not worth it for me.
Right.
I cannot stand the small guides.
Sure, and that's a great thing about custom too. Everyone's going towards the smaller guides, but in your case, you came to the right place. We can get you bigger guides for your application, and you don't have to fight the standard rod you'd find in the store.
Cool.
So now we're on to the reel seat and the grip here. We're trying to determine which one Jeff wants to go with. The standard one that you find on most of your builds in retail, and then custom one, which I've kind of fine-tuned over the years of building. And I take this Fiji reel seat and I actually install it upside down so the hood is back towards the butt, and you have more availability or accessibility to the front of the blank. And
I got 1 or 2 rods that I'm constantly screwing with this one.
Right.
And I think it has to do with just that there's a lot of hand contact up here, but back here there isn't. So that actually makes sense to you're inverting it. That's pretty cool.
Right.
But I've actually put both of these in my hands, and I'm happier with this one. So let's replicate this.
Okay. All right, we're here. We got our Fiji reel seat picked out. We're gonna go with the hidden thread, and we'll go ahead and add that to the cart. We're on to the insert for the reel seat. Kind of sits between the blank and the reel seat itself. You can see that piece there is this piece here, so we'll get it, and then once it comes in, we'll ream it out and fit it to the blank. So we'll go ahead and add that, and then I believe all we need is thread after that. We got our insert, we got our guides, got our tip top, hook keeper, winding checks, butt seat, reel seat, and blank itself.
So those are just the materials that are for this specific rod build. What other materials? Say someone's doing this on their own. We filmed that last about a year ago.
Right. Yeah, you can get started with just a standard, we can go ahead and show you actually and get started with just a standard 2-spool wrapping system right here on mud hole. And this is what I use on all my rods right there. You got your tension rod, and you put your different thread on there, and that's all you really need. Then you need something to dry the rod after you put the epoxy on. That can be found on mud hole as well, and that's right here. You just put the butt in the one ends, turn it on, and leave it there for about...
So it's a motor that keeps it spinning.
Correct. Yep. So that's the basics. You can buy a kit. I believe Mud Hole has one that comes all together, and then a couple reamers, and then glue, epoxy, paint brushes, and a burnishing tool really is all I need. Sharp pair of scissors.
Anything Anything interesting to talk about with epoxies, or is it all pretty much straightforward, the same stuff?
Yeah, I use all the stuff from Mudhole. Mudhole is one-stop shop. I use the Pro Coat 2-part epoxy, mix it up, and good to go for that.
Cool. So we're looking at the butt and butt caps, and you like the wind grip.
I like the wind grip. Yeah, it's kind of a crossover of EVA, but it gets nice and tacky when it's wet, so it doesn't slip out of your hands, and it's still lightweight.
Okay. Let's do orange, and I'm gonna have you do orange thread. And the orange and gray kind of.
Ah, Torpedo. I
There
like
it is.
Winding checks for trim pieces for the bottom of the top of the reel seat. I'm gonna do orange on those.
Yep.
Cool. I got our spec sheet up here so I can determine the winding check sizes here. So I typically run 8.5 inches from the butt to the bottom of the reel seat, and I think you said that was a good length for you as well, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit shorter than what's traditional off the shelf.
Sure. So we'll need
especially those saltwater rods.
Right.
Saltwater rods, they always give you way too big a butt, and those rods don't work well for kayak anglers.
Okay, perfect. So we'll go ahead. They don't come in half sizes, so we'll get a 12, and then the reel seat's about 4 inches, so we'll get 2 12s. That way they don't stretch and break on you. Match that up with the reel seat size of the 17, so we'll do 17 and 12 millimeters, and we'll add 2 of those to the cart. You like a hook keeper?
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and grab that real quick. Standard hook keeper like I built on mine, good?
Yep.
Alright. We'll do the large one since you'll be using larger hooks for your saltwater fishing.
For sure.
Black Gunsmoke, silver.
Maybe that Gunsmoke that's on the bottom. Is that what that is? Yeah. That might look good.
Alright. The tip top and the guides, we can go to the blank itself here on Mudhole, and it'll tell us the tip top size we need. Right over here, the 4.5 tip top size. So we'll get that ring to match up the top of the blank, and then we'll look for a larger ring size of the actual guide itself. Got our tip top picked out here. We'll go with the one that actually goes on the blank there, so we can wrap it over, get it a little tighter and more secure since you're going to be using it in the salt water. We've got our 4.5 there to match up with the blank, and then the ring size is 6, so you don't have to deal with the line getting twisted up like you normally have to deal with. We'll go ahead and add that to the cart, and then we'll look for guides to go with it. So we're picking out our guides here. We're going to go with the microwave guide. We're going to go with an 8, a 10, and then we're going to get 6s to run up and match the tip top there. So we'll go down here and get an 8 or a 10. Add that.
So what size thread do you use?
I use A. It's the smaller thread.
Okay. Any reason to go? I don't know. Is there a rationale for using different sizes?
There is, but I always just used A. You can get more of it on there and tighter wraps because it's not as thick as say B or D.
Is there any of the components here that are not dangerous to Californians?
Everything's dangerous to Californians.
You know what that's about?
No.
So basically, California passed some legislature that said if there's any possible way that there could be any number of these chemicals,
Right.
lead or other things, in any component that could possibly, even in the smallest trace amount, if you don't put that label on there,
Mm-hmm.
and some lawyer in California, if you sell your product in California, breaks it down and finds it,
Right.
they can basically bankrupt you.
Huh.
So everyone puts this California Proposition 65 warning on everything. That's what it's about.
Good to know.
Yeah. So are you selling any custom rods into California?
No.
All right, then you're good.
Sounds good.
Well, we'll check out here, and then I guess here in another, I don't know, how long does it take you to?
We order this today. We'll probably have it sometime next week, and then we can get started on the build.
Cool.
Sometime probably middle of next week.
Okay. So, I'll do a wrap up, or I'll do a separate video once it's done,
Sure.
and we'll go over it, and we should get on the water and test it.
Sounds good. Works for me.
All right. See ya.